back to Callahan Corner. I'm with Joe Walsh today. He is a former representative for the Illinois 8th District, and he's pro-life, and he graciously agreed to come on my show today. We welcome Joe Walsh. Thank you for coming.
Darby, good to be with you, man. How you holding up with all of this coronavirus going on?
It's been difficult, but we've been getting through it, getting some classes done, and just spreading the pro-life message.
Awesome, man.
So first, I want to thank you for the pro-life work you've been doing in Congress from 2011 to 2013. I have been involved in the pro-life movement myself since 7th grade, and I've really enjoyed engaging in conversation with people through social media, in person, and just it's such a controversial issue, but it's an issue that needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed at the federal, state level. And I'm proud to be pro-life, and I'm glad you're here with us, and we can have a quick conversation about the issues of life.
Darby, that's great, man. And I can tell you, in my time in Congress and my time doing conservative talk radio for 5 or 6 years, and then running against Donald Trump in the Republican primary, the life issue is an issue that even most Republicans don't really like to talk about. They'd rather focus on the economic issues. There's no more important issue than life. You know that.
I agree 100%. Thank you. And I appreciate you being courageous enough to run against the president. I personally supported you in the caucus, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Darby.
So let's I have a few questions for you. We can get started.
Sure.
My first question is, how did you get involved in politics?
I've always loved politics. I've always loved American history. I taught American history and I taught American government at the community college level for a number of years. I have always been fascinated with this thing called the American experiment. I did not think I was going to run for Congress, but then back in 2009, they passed Obamacare, and me and a lot of people like me, got angry about Obamacare and got angry about all the debt that both political parties were piling on top of your generation's head, Darby. So I up and ran for Congress because I was angry about those issues.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And why are you pro-life?
Well, it's interesting, Darby. I wasn't always pro-life as an adult. I consider myself to be pretty libertarian. What does that mean? That means I don't want my government doing a lot. I want to be able to live my life, and I want government generally staying out of my life. But I'll tell you what, the one thing I want my government doing is protecting life and protecting my liberty. And I realized after years of thought and study and prayer that this is the primary role of government, to protect life, to protect your right, Darby, to be able to live your life and be free, to protect my life. And once I realized that life in the womb is a life, well then, heck yeah, government has to protect that life. That's what convinced me to become pro-life.
Thank you. What is some pro-life legislation you have supported while in office?
It's a tough question, Darby, because look, when I was in Congress, every piece of pro-life legislation that came our way, I supported. Every effort to defund Planned Parenthood, I supported. Every effort to eliminate any dollar of the federal government going to support abortion, I supported. But I've got to be honest, Darby, it's a difficult issue because I don't know that what the federal government can do when it comes to abortion. I felt that way when I was in Congress. When people would ask me, I'd say, you know what? Roe v. Wade is a flawed Supreme Court ruling. The states should be able to decide. I worry because if the federal government tomorrow outlawed all abortion, half of this country would revolt. If the federal government tomorrow, Darby, said all abortion is legal, the other half of the country would revolt. So I'm really torn as to what the federal government can and should do. It's a tough one.
It is, and I think that's why the pro-life movement, like myself and like you, do want to overturn Roe v. Wade and give those rights back to the states. And so my next question, kind of going off of that, would be: do you think Roe v. Wade will be overturned in our lifetime, or how soon? And how soon can we get that decision back to the states?
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance that it will. Again, this is an issue now. Until, Darby, people like you and I can educate the American people that life is precious and life does begin at the moment of conception. And by the way, Darby, you know better than I do, because you're probably more educated on this issue than I am. Technology, right, is shaping public opinion, and praise the Lord, but we're able to save babies in the womb at an earlier and earlier age. And that is changing people's position on the life issue. The American people, especially young people, Darby, you know, are becoming more pro-life. So we've got to keep that effort going, that education battle going. And I do think that, again, Roe v. Wade was an example of the federal government overstepping. In this case, the Supreme Court. I do think in your lifetime, Darby, that will be overturned and brought back to the states.
I like to hear that. And my last question kind of goes on to, you were in office from 2011 to 2013. And so I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on how has the issue of abortion and issue of other pro-life issues and the pro-life movement as a whole, how have you seen that change in the last 10 years?
I think that pro-life people in the past 10 years are more courageous now to speak out. I'll tell you what, Darby, when I ran for Congress 10 years ago, even among conservatives, I was told, don't talk about life. Come on, Joe, just talk about the debt and the deficit and economic issues. Well, I didn't listen to that. I talked about what I believed in. But I'm seeing over the course of the last 8 to 10 years, and we're seeing this in polling data, that more people running for office feel more confident to talk about life, the sanctity of life. So that's been a real sea change, and that's a good thing. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Darby, but I think we're even seeing in the Democratic Party pro-life candidates not as afraid to even be labeled as a pro-life Democrat. So I really do think that again, a lot of this is because of the amazing medicine and healthcare and technology that has enabled, babies to be saved. That's changing public opinion in both political parties.
Thank you so much. That's all the questions I have today. Thank you for coming on, and I appreciate your pro-life work.
Hey, Darby, God bless you, and thank you for the work you do, my friend.
Thank you. Happy Easter. Thank you. This is Darby Callahan signing off of Callahan Corner.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Have a good night.